HBCUs,
Okay.
and also for the HBCU themselves to completely revitalize their campus and really push forward for what the vision is, for what the vision the executive team at those HBCUs have set, and to really just change the narrative and change the entire trajectory of everything.
So when you're talking about revitalization,
Mhm.
um, are they upgrading buildings? Are they upgrading campus housing,
Yeah.
classrooms? Talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
so they will be upgrading buildings, classrooms. Yes, that's a part of it, but really hyper focused on the opportunity to create housing.
Okay.
You know, from the standpoint of creating cash flow for the school,
Okay.
so they can not only become more self sufficient, but so they won't find themselves in a similar position, 10 years down the line, 15, 20 years down the line. So creating that cash flow from the standpoint of community housing, from the standpoint of mixed use development, from the standpoint of um, you know, really making things attractive for the HBCU that would really cause a lot of attention in the area of the particular city that and outside of area to garner interest to gain even more cash flow that will be had.
Okay. So HBCUs have been in a difficult position financially in the recent past, correct?
Yeah, man. Yeah, extremely difficult. I mean, because really, the state and really being a public institution, we and I say we because I'm a part of it being an HBCU grad, we just never received the type of funding that predominantly white institutions receive historically, which is a part of the systemic racism aspect, which is why Steinbridge, the founder Tawan Davis did what he did, and then which is why Robert Smith came on and doing what he's doing, because it's so vital. Because we haven't had the support that other colleges have had for a very long time.
Right. And there's a lot of state funding, federal funding that goes into institutions. I remember, I don't know if it was 2016 or 17, the presidents of the HBCU visited the White House. President Trump was in at the time. He signed over a bunch of funding to the HBCUs, which was supposed to last like 15, 20 years. That was like the first step. And then I think the new administration, they continued that on, which is a big plus. As far as not receiving the funding, you mentioned systemic racism. Is it systemic racism for sure? Like what else goes into that outside the funding? Why aren't they receiving the funding outside the what's the reasoning outside the systemic racism? I know that you have historically white institutions that have this funding that's been going to them for years and years and years and years. What is the reason they say that the funding isn't going to HBCUs?
Yeah, so it's not that any funding is not going to HBCUs. It's the fact that it's not the same amount of funding that's going to the HBCUs versus the PWIs. I mean, it's an extremely huge difference. And also like when we think about like the wealth gap, like we know that our alumni typically take out loans for their education, and typically they come from households who, they might be a college graduate for the first time, or obviously they had to take out student loans. I mean, it's written in the data that Black and brown people typically take out student loans with a much higher interest rate than that of any other counterparts. And then when taking out those student loans, you don't necessarily have the ability to pay back those loans, because due to systemic racism, an uneducated white male can literally get paid more just because of being white versus actually being educated. And the wealth gap plays a factor into that. But then on a systemic side, state and government municipalities are not allocating nearly as much funding as they should be to HBCUs, which is why the campuses end up having to shut down, or, we have to come up with creative solutions and really lean on each other to keep the doors open.
Right. And one of the things I love seeing is the alumni come in, like Steinberg Group, all the alumni, the major, because there are billion-dollar Black men and women in America. I mean, if you look across, I think Jay-Z got involved. There's some big names that got involved. I think Drake donated something. J.R. Smith started playing golf at the
He
HBCU.
did at North Carolina A&T. He
right.
did.
So, which I have my first game I ever played baseball wise in college was against North Carolina A&T at Bull Durham's Park. So there's a fond memory there for me.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's nice seeing the alumni step up and come up with creative solutions. I'm a proponent of every university across the country, whether it's HBCU or just a historically white institute or predominantly white institution, being able to support themselves, right, and not have to rely on state funding. So I think that HBCUs are actually ahead of the curve right now because they're starting to get alumni involved, donations, creating $100 million fund. Like, that's unbelievable. That's awesome. Maybe not ahead of the curve, but getting to the level. I'm a small government type of person, so I don't like the fact that any university has to rely on that. So I love the fact that you mentioned the $100 million fund to go into the universities and getting alumni involved, getting somebody like yourself involved to set up these meetings and start to drive the give back. Because I think that whatever the community is, the only way to raise a community up is to come up with creative solutions, give back to the community. And I was mentioning to you, my hometown got worst place to live in America, which, I think it's like 60% white, maybe a little bit more in my hometown. But it's, the only way we're going to fix that as people from Amsterdam, New York, and shout out Amsterdam. Sorry for talking bad about you.
I didn't even know that was a place.
Amsterdam, yeah, dude, we were the original Amsterdam, Netherlands. They copied us.
Wow.
Not really.
Okay.
But yeah, the only way we get out of that is to give back to the communities once we make it. And it's actually a big thing of mine is financial literacy for economically, deprived areas. So one of the things that I look across all communities at, and you look at, college rates, like terrible college rate in my hometown, there's a socioeconomic gap there. And one of the things myself and my co-founder of this company, and part of the reason this podcast exists, is because we want to put education out there that doesn't cost anything and get different stories, different people, different backgrounds on the Lone Guys podcast to talk about building wealth through real estate and mortgage and real estate. Because if you can educate people on, hey, there's another way. You don't have to do X, Y, and Z. You don't have to stay broke. You don't have to rely on government. You don't have if you do it yourself. It's not easy, which you're seeing right now as you're trying to build your wealth through real estate. Right. But there is another way. The only way to do that is to have conversations, allow people to see different perspectives, see your perspective on getting into real estate. We had Tom O'Neill on last week who's doing a different style of real estate than you are. Let them see that perspective and say, hey, okay, we can build. And then as you build wealth, you'll give back. And then you set up future generations to do that because we lead by example. There you go. And that's how we raise a whole community up.
That's it.
Hey, so you know, we've been live for T-minus 8 minutes.
Nice. The internet's back.
The Wi-Fi is back on.
Welcome, people. The Wi-Fi wasn't working. Comporium, shout out to you for fixing it.
Perfect timing.
So, super excited to have you here. You mentioned so that housing, mixed use housing, $100 million, a bunch of big names involved.
That's a fact.
So, where'd you graduate from?
I graduated from North Carolina Central University.
Okay, nice. Nick Cannon kind of put HBCUs on the map a little bit too. And what was that movie, Drumline?
Drumline, yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mine too.
And Nick Cannon is a distant relative. I actually reached out to him last week.
I see the similarities.
No, I'm really serious. Like, yeah. He really is a distant
That's
relative.
Awesome.
I'm trying to get in contact with him.
That would be really cool. Well, Nick, if you see this, yes. Markel, distant relative,
man,
wants to do some stuff for HBCUs. Now talk about so I guess that 365 acres, that's land development. Talk a little bit about that and how you got into the land development piece.
Yeah, man. Relationships, relationships are worth more than money. And I really practice that. I really hone in on that. And whenever I have my business meetings, I really stress that. And, as I stated before, I've always been someone with vision. I've always been someone that can galvanize people and get them to execute a common goal. And it just so happened that my business manager actually met the gentleman who has the 365 acres last summer. A lot happened last summer. And from there, I was just fully transparent with him. I told him where I was from. And it was actually EYL, an EYL event. So shout out to Earn Your Leisure, because this is a full circle moment here, because without Earn Your Leisure back in 2020, I would not be here.
Right.
You know, because I started to cultivate the mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And then shortly thereafter, I created my own investment group, and we was investing into the stock market, into cryptocurrency, and really raping the market, like really having our way, day trading, intraday trading, short-term, long-term investing. But I saw that to say we had met at this EYL event that happened in Charlotte, and I was invited by Chris Dennis. Shout out to Chris Dennis, another developer who brought TD Bank to Beatties Ford Corridor, which is a historically black community in Charlotte, North Carolina, and brought Chase Bank on the other side.
Nice.
So they revitalized the entire stretch of a Beatties Ford Corridor, and they brought TD Bank and Chase Bank. But then at the EYL event, my business manager, Steven, shout out to my guy, he introduced us, and you know, he brought me in, and we began to establish trust. And I know trust is very important in any relationship.
For sure.
You know, and from there, I just told him what I would like to do and how I could help him. And he's just been trusting me the entire way. So I've been helping him to raise the capital to close on the land, and then also to really come up with a vision for the entire city. I mean, we're building a city twice the size of Chester.
Yeah.
So it's a massive undertaking.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And it's in multiple phases.
It's in multiple phases, for sure.
So EYL, talk a little bit. What is that?
Yeah, so EYL is Earn Your Leisure. They were, you know, created by Rashad Bilal and Troy Millings, and then Ian Dunlap, the master investor, came on as a partner to EYL. And every single year they have this huge event called InvestFest. Mm-hmm. So they have the financial literacy arm, just like you guys, but also they have this hip hop element.
Nice.
You know, and I'm a hip hop fanatic. You know, I grew up listening to rap music, and for me, it's more so like a lifestyle than
Who's your
actual
favorite rapper?
My favorite rapper of all time,
Yes.
or right now?
All time.
My favorite rapper of all time, and I consider rapper MC as well.
Okay.
So it's Nas.
Oh, me
all
too.
time.
Yeah.
But
Illmatic, baby.
Illmatic. but the most influential rapper for me is Kanye.
Oh yeah.
Because of
Kanye
the
for
clothing
president.
element. Yeah, man. And
People
like,
try and make him out to be like he's crazy, and he said some stuff that's
We're
kinda-
all crazy.
we're all crazy in some form of fashion.
He wants
Hey,
to.
I was going to throw out shout out to Too Short. Getting it.
Getting it. That's my guy. That's my guy, man. Yeah. Shout out to Short Dog.
I think that Kanye is definitely probably one of the most influential all time.
All time.
Nas might be the best lyricist ever.
Yes.
You got to put Jay-Z up there too, though.
Yeah. Jay-Z is up there because of his longevity.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know, but when I think about like lyricism and cadence and impact and cultural phenomenon, Jay-Z is definitely that without question. But Nas can rap about a tree
Right.
and make it sound super
Right.
dope.
Right.
You know,
Snoop Dogg can too, though.
Snoop can too.
Another one who was good was Eminem with
Yeah.
lyricism.
Yeah.
That dude was crazy. Like his mind. You know, after I watched that movie, I just realized that if you're going to be a superstar in the rap game, dude, you got to be a genius.
You gotta be a genius.
Yeah, for sure.
You gotta be.
I think that everybody, you spoke to something about just a mindset, like a scarcity versus abundance, right? I think that everybody, and this is why I believe in abundance, I think everybody is a genius at something.
Right.
And you can develop. I was telling people like just like the habits of self control, being strict on yourself, keeping the schedule, doing what you have to do to be successful.
Yeah.
Those are developed, right?
Yeah.
And you can develop the knowledge on real estate. I'm sure you've learned a ton since hopping into real
So
estate.
much.
I just thought of something too. Kendrick Lamar, modern day best lyricist in my opinion.
Shout out to Kendrick.
But J. Cole's my favorite modern
Shout out
day.
to Cold World and a native of North Carolina, Vietnam.
Right.
So shout out to Cold World.
Oh yeah. So talk a little bit more about So you went from scarcity mindset to abundance.
Mm-hmm.
What that changed for you? What?
Yeah, like how did I get to that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I read 3 books. So, okay, let me rewind back to my teaching days. Because
Okay.
I taught middle and high school English.
Yeah. So I was going to get into that to see how you.
Okay.
Well, we don't have to wait.
Okay.
Let's just go into it. But what I was going to do is I was going to get into that because I think if I'm reading the story correctly, when I was looking into your background and stuff a little bit, what happened in the school systems kind of led you into pushing you towards real estate a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, man. So I graduated from North Carolina Central, as you guys know, with my degree in English. And then I went straight into the workforce. I was in Durham, North Carolina, and I started as a substitute teacher at Glenn Elementary School under Mr. Redfern. So shout out to Mr. Redfern giving me my first opportunity as a professional within the working force. And then I did so well that they hired me as a permanent sub. So they hired me as a permanent sub, and then every single year I was just moving up through the ranks. I went from instructional assistant to teacher assistant, and then I moved back to the city. I moved back to Charlotte, and I got my first opportunity to teach middle school English with my own classroom. I taught traditional and honors English middle school. And the first year, my students finished with the highest test scores amongst all English teachers.
Awesome.
And they said that I did so well that if I was a veteran teacher, I would have received a pay raise. But since I was a new teacher, they just gave me a pack of bubble gum and a slap on the back. And I really felt it. I was like, man, that's like low key. That's like an insult.
It is.
You know, for all the hard work that we put in to make sure that these kids got what they need to do, because James Martin is actually a Title I school. So it's predominantly black and brown. And then also a lot of the students, unfortunately, come from single parent family homes.
Right.
So it's a lot that goes into that. But basically, having that type of accomplishment was like mission impossible.
Right.
Especially as a first year teacher. So I took all of that momentum, and then I went to another school, Ridge Road, and it was the same outcome. And then I was like, look at God.
Yeah.
I was like, look at God, blessing, and see all the hard work that we putting in. And then I also had I was in grad school at UNCC. So at this time, I'm at Ridge Road. I'm getting like extremely high observations from the administration.
And your students are doing extremely well.
Man, extremely well.
And that's how promotions and raises should be based. It should be based off production.
Key. It should be, but apparently in teaching, that's not the case. Oh, at least not for me.
Well, I just think it's I go back to just too much government involved.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, we have to do things that are quote unquote fair. Well, what is fair, right?
It's relative.
It's relative, and it should be production based, because that's the only thing you can't argue data.
You can't.
Now,
men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Right. Exactly.
You can't argue the data.
100%. So, but anyways, get back to it. So you're at the next school. Your students keep having the highest test scores. You're doing great as a teacher.
Yeah, man.
You're in grad school at the same time. So
education's important.
With
straight A's.
With straight A's. Okay, so keep going.
So at the same time with straight A's, and then I was like, let me just take this momentum and let me see if I can take on high school, because I wanted to have more mature conversations with my audience. And then also, I just got tired of being at school all day. Honestly, I mean, when you think about middle schools, they are typically open from 9 to 3 or 4. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be in the school all day. So let me just wake up earlier and leave earlier by high school. So I was like, let me just try. And I was very intentional about doing it. And then I got my first opportunity that next summer. So I had 4 interviews with some of the top high schools in Charlotte, and they all wanted me. And then I had a conversation with my pop. Shout out to my dad. He's a principal now.
Okay.
And in the city, he's a principal in Charlotte. So he was like, son, he was like, you don't just want to be the black professional that's successful at the black school. It was like, see how you'll do at the white school. I said, all right, I can do it. Like, it's nothing. I was like, all right, cool. I like that challenge.
Right.
I like, watch this. So I had an interview with several schools, and then I elected to go with the school that was predominantly white. And man, that was an experience. So I ended up taking a job at South Mecklenburg High School, and this was during COVID. Mm-hmm. So I had 205 students. I was teaching honors English, and I had 3 grad courses.
Okay.
So I was hyper focused to be the best teacher that I could be as possible, while at the same time maintaining my A's, because I believe how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Correct.
And then I was a new father. I was the only one working.
Congratulations on that.
Wifey was pregnant, so I was grinding so hard that I started developing bags under my eyes because of the type of commitment that I kind of operate in whenever I commit to something.
Right.
Like I commit to excellence or nothing else.
Right.
So at that point, my students finished with the highest test scores again, but only this time the administration was not supportive of me. They were not supportive of me, and at South Mecklenburg.
Why so though?
Man, one of
Because
the
test scores should say it, right?
yeah, but it's more than test scores.
Okay.
So one of the teacher leads came to me one day, and she was like, Markel, she was like, I love what you're doing. She was like, but I think one of the administrators have a vendetta against you. I was like, why would the administrator have a vendetta against me? Like, what did I do?
You said teacher Langs?
One of the teacher leads.
Teacher leads. What's that?
Yeah, so pretty much within public school, you have teacher leads, almost like the administrator, but not the administrator.
Okay.
Specifically,
Administrator assistant, basically, right?
Yeah, kind of like an administrator assistant, but pretty much they oversee everything for the English department. So you have different departments, obviously. You have the English department, you have history department, you have science department, you have math department.
It shows how checked out I was in high school.
We didn't have that either.
I didn't know.
They didn't have that in Amsterdam, New York.
I don't think they. I honestly don't think they did. But
or Gaffney, South Carolina. So
they may have, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, yeah, things are clearly done differently in New York, but specifically in Charlotte, you know, during the time of me being there, my teacher lead came to me,
right,
and she was like, Markel, she was like, I think one of the administrators have a vendetta against you. And I was like, why? She was like, you're so confident.
Okay.
You're always so sure of yourself. And you have the scores. That was like, they're not used to that. She was like, you're pretty much changing the culture of the school. Because what was happening is on one end, I had the highest test scores amongst all teachers.
Okay.
But then on the other end, all the kids that look like me, and not even just the kids that look like me, because white students love me too, but a lot of the kids that look like me, they were flocking to my classroom. So like a lot of like the quote unquote troublemakers or the kids that would be hanging out didn't really want to be interested in school. It's kind of like being in school passing time. They would find themselves in my classroom because they felt like it was like a safe haven.
Which is better than them being somewhere else.
Correct. Which is better than them being somewhere else. But it wasn't just those type of kids. It was the extremely intelligent kids too. You know, it just so happened it was just an extremely diverse classroom.
Which that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. And I thought that this was excellent, but the administration was not so fond of that. But then also during
what they say about that?
Man, literally while I was there, I got racially profiled several times.
Okay.
By white women who happened to be teaching at the school.
Okay.
So I was the youngest black male teacher in the entire school, teaching a core subject,
right? Teaching
honors at that.
Right.
Do you know what type of position that made me be in?
Vulnerable, probably, right?
Yeah, but beyond vulnerable, that's a powerful position because
You're
I'm not teaching gym. I literally had like my polo on. I had my checkered pants on. I had my loafers on.
Right.
With the socks, you know.
Nice.
I know how to.
Good.
I know how to put it on.
The drip was killing. You had the drip.
I know how to switch up the drip. Right. So at the same time, I was there during open house, extremely excited, and then one parent asked me, she's like, "Do you teach gym?" And I was like, "No, I teach honors English."
Yeah, like come on now.
Why would I teach gym and I'm here dressed up and I'm sitting in front of my classroom greeting y'all? That's an insult. But then I had to take it on the chin and pretend like it didn't really affect me. But the whole time it did because that was just one of many that came. Right. So I was like, man, this is not it. This is not it. So during that time, I was plotting I was really thinking about, okay, I'm not going to retire as a teacher because in my mind, I was already a boss, even though I was working for obviously the district.
Right.
So I was like, something has to change. I was like, if I can execute at this level of professionalism with all that's on my plate, what can I do? Start my own company.
Right.
And then when I asked myself that question and I prayed to God about it, the vision came clear. And
real estate.
Here you are.
The rest is history.
So it was real estate, which was your vision, right?
Really, it was more so investing and learning about the value of money, learning the rules of money, the engagement of money, learning the value of relationships, learning the value of having a vision, cultivating a vision, getting a team behind it, and then executing it at the highest level. It just so happened that I went from creating my investment group, V for Victory, that started with my 3 closest friends. And then, 3 became 10, 10 became 20, 20 became 50. So at the highest level between 2020 to 2022 was short-term and long-term investing, day trading, and then I was taking some gains out the stock market, putting it into crypto and making a killing in crypto. And then I warned the guys. I was like, look, and women, because we had women in there too. I was like, look, what goes up must come down. I said, winter is coming. I was like, I need to get into something that's recession proof. And I started to fall back. And then I began to hyper focus on real estate development because my best friend, Omar, shout out to my guy, Omar, while I was teaching, he was a realtor up in New York.
Nice.
So he'll just be hitting me, and we ultra competitive. Like we competitive. We like to compete. So he'd be like, bruh, he'll send me he'll send me a picture of a $10,000 check with his name on it. while I was teaching.
I love that.
Hey,
Damn.
I was like, I'm in the wrong industry.
My friends do the same thing.
Hey, while I was teaching, so I'm over here sweating at the school. I'm over here in grad school, putting in the work, a very noble profession, a very impactful profession. And then I get a text message, and I'm getting multiple texts from him with $10,000 check, $8,000 check the next month, $15,000 the next month. And I'm like, okay, I like what you're doing. I like, well, watch this. You're on the realtor side. Watch this. Let me go back to the drawing board. And then I was like, if he's making 10, how can I make 100? Or how can I make $1 million in a relatively short amount of time?
Right.
And then I embarked upon real estate development. And then the rest is history.
So you mentioned earlier you went from a scarcity mindset to a mindset of abundance, and that you read some books. And talk a little bit how you changed your mindset.
Yeah.
Because to me, it would have been very easy for you to easy for you to stay in the scarcity mindset, especially everything that happened in Charlotte Meck schools. And I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that piece, so I haven't brought it up.
Yeah, so Charlotte Meck is separate from the national news story. Charlotte Meck is one district, but then when I went to that charter school, the charter school is separate from Charmeck.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so are we allowed to talk about that? I don't know what the legality is.
we can touch on it, but I won't go into detail.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a federal lawsuit, right, or a federal case for systemic racism from the charter school.
Facts.
Because you got
Facts.
because you got let go over a book that had to do with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, man. So speaking of my best friend Omar again, I took a personal leave that I had because I had so many days because I never missed work. And we went to New Orleans, was out there for a week, celebrating his birthday, celebrating his 30th birthday. And then when I got back, this was the second day of Black History Month, February 2nd of last year. 2023. And I got back and I taught, I went through all of my lessons. It was a great day, And then principal called me in and she fired me on the spot. And
From what, though?
Right. So I said, why are you firing me? And she said, honestly, I can't address parent concern all day long. And then I was like, this is new to me because I didn't even know there was parent concern. I didn't have any teacher conferences with that school or even with any of the parents that was allegedly complaining. So this is new information to me.
Right.
So she was like, I can't spend my entire time addressing parent complaints. And then I was like, okay. And I was like, is this effective immediately? She said, yes. I sat back. I said, thank you for the opportunity.
Great response. Well, that's a great response. That's a big.
You would have thought I was playing poker. I play chess.
I
play chess.
Okay.
No, in real life.
Right. Yeah.
I play the game and in real life.
Right. You have to. You have to think 5 moves ahead.
It's chess.
Did you find out what the reasoning was?
Yeah. So the EEOC did their investigation.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
The Equal Employment Opportunity, something with it.
Okay, so they're looking into.
Yeah, they looked into it, and they gave me the right to sue.
So what did they say? What did the school say the parent complaints were? Because I read 4 or 5 articles, and it was not clear to me what the reasoning was. I don't know the book. Obviously, I know who Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is, American hero. I just don't understand. Was there something controversial in the book?
Yeah, so there was, and everything is relative,
right.
Because the principal literally gave me the permission to teach from the book. She actually suggested it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, let's use this book. And then in Dear Martin, it's about a academically gifted boy. And growing up, I was academically gifted. I was always, the 1 or 2 black boys in the advanced classes in public schools. So that really, really accelerated my growth because I wanted to be the teacher that I felt like I always needed.
Correct.
That's why I wanted to go into teaching.
Right.
So, Dear Martin really highlights the intellectual capacity of a young black boy who's from the inner city, because they love inner city, from the inner city, who just witnessed his best friend being shot and killed by a off-duty police officer.
Okay. And
the off-duty police officer shoots and kills his best friend because they are blasting rap music at a stoplight. And all hell pretty much breaks loose. Obviously the friend dies, but then Justice, the main character in the book, he then receives several offers from highly prestigious institutions like a Yale, like a Harvard, and he takes those opportunities. But only this time, when he goes, he's really traumatized by losing his best friend, and he feels like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will be the only one to understand his plight.
Okay,
being a minority on the campus of a PWI, but also this prestigious university, and you're not necessarily surrounded by people who came from the same environment as you and grew up like you and know what it's like to be in your shoes.
Correct.
So he was writing past tense to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Even though he knew MLK Jr. was dead at that particular time, he wanted to get his feelings out.
So what was controversial? I'm not understanding.
Drops pen.
The what?
Drops pen. Like, what is controversial about it? I don't see anything controversial about it.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, especially after going through everything we went through from 2020 to now as a country, and that was probably around the time of George Floyd stuff happening. So that would have been controversial as well, and it's happening in real time, and you're just kind of teaching about it from a different perspective.
It's educational.
Well, and you're teaching about it from a different perspective. So my whole thing is you don't necessarily have to agree with everything.
Right.
So the argument to me would have been this. It would have been he's writing from a perspective that students at, say, a Yale or a prestigious university like that don't understand. But there's also a perspective on the other side that he probably doesn't understand.
That's a fact.
So I don't understand.
Let's merge worlds so we can understand each other better.
Well, that's why we're here having this conversation,
that's a fact.
Right? So conversation heals the world, in my opinion.
It does.
So you get let go.
Mm-hmm.
There's a federal case lawsuit. I don't know the legal jargon.
Yeah.
I'm a mortgage and real estate
No
guy.
worries.
So
no worries.
that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You changed your mind from scarcity to abundance, which a lot of respect for you on that, because I think that when this stuff is happening and you're picking up on the person asking you, are you a gym teacher, when you're standing outside of English classroom that has the highest grades in the school district or in the school test grades, that is, it could have been it's easy to stay in a scarcity mindset because that's all to me very negative stuff that's happening, and then you get let go because of the Dear Martin book, and I think I'm going to read that now just to see the perspective, because I don't understand still why that would happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever will. I don't think I can. Right. There's just certain things we won't understand.
Right.
It would have been easy to have a scarcity mindset. So how did you change from a scarcity to abundance that led you into your real estate journey?
Yeah, man. So I read 3 books the summer of 2020. Think and Grow Rich, number 1 by Napoleon Hill, right? You know, a crowd favorite. And then the next book, The 10X Rule by your boy, Grant Cardone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I listen, I respect Grant Cardone.
I had to say it.
Listen, the only thing I disagree with is he tells people not to buy a primary residence. And I just think that's absolutely asinine. But anyways, keep going.
Understood. And then the next one was The Millionaire Next Door.
Yes. Dude, I got that in there too.
Yeah, man. So I read all 3 of those summer of 2020. And then...
Gets your mind going, doesn't it?
It changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed everything.
Did you realize that it's I was trying to explain this to one of my friends, and it was probably a bad time to explain it, but he had gotten laid off from his job. It was like a contracted job for the government, and then they decided not to renew the contract, so his company let him go.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like if you look at it from the perspective, and I had kind of dove into the same type of the abundance mindset, but you start to realize it's almost like a game. Financially, it's a game.
It's a game.
And if you play the game correctly, it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of paper. Because think about it. It's a piece of paper and a number in an account, but there's ways to get to wealth that don't focus on that piece. Focus on possibly having a great idea and then bringing investors in who also want to profit, right? Or you know, it's a game, and those type of books they changed my mindset, and I read them post college. If people who knew me in college and know me now and what I'm doing compared to what I was doing, I was lazy. I wouldn't show up to class. If it rained, I didn't go to class.
Yeah,
I just didn't do it.
Well, see, one thing about the books, though, I think that it really opens your eyes. It opens your minds to different opportunities. Where if you were just at your normal 9-to-5 job, you create the mindset of this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and you do it
right
every single day. And you know, you guys opened my eyes. That man, I was in the chemical world working, 7 to 11 some nights, and now we're in here and we're doing podcasts. We're learning about people's stories, their lives. We're investing in real estate. We're doing mortgages. I mean, it's awesome.
It's one of those things I tell everybody. It's just like money doesn't lead; it follows. And if you learn how to play the game, and you have to pay, and I call it a game. I don't even know what to call it. I almost think that game's a bad word. You mentioned chess. There's a guy by the name of Patrick Bet-David who wrote Your Next 5 Moves about building business and such. And it's just like a master chess player knows the next 5 moves that they're going to make. You need to know the same thing for business. And there's stuff like, dude, I try to do a book a month, if not more. Because it just, even if you don't agree with everything that's in the book, it opens your mindset, and thinking more doesn't, and having more conversation doesn't hurt. So you read those books, and you go from scarcity to abundance. Then what happened?
Yeah, I read those 3 books. I go from scarcity to abundance almost overnight. It seems to be overnight, but it's really over the entire summer. And then I began to educate myself on the stock market.
Okay.
I began to evaluate companies. I began to understand like cash flow. I began to understand that there is public information and then there's the real information.
Right.
I've learned that.
I think we all kind of learned that. That was a come to Jesus over the past about 10 years for a lot of us. So
yeah, man. So I familiarized myself with that, and I was just like a very, very studious, very hungry, and allocating probably anywhere between 50 to 60 hours per week just educating myself.
Okay.
Well, knowledge is power.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. So from there, me and my 3 best friends, we started our investment group, V for Victory. And then from 2020 to 2022, we had our way. And then I told them that I wanted to get into something that's recession proof. Then I started my company, Paradigm Shifters. We are an acquisition and real estate development company.
Which is awesome. How did you know the recession was coming? Because we're smack dab in the middle, and they just haven't told us yet.
Right.
How did you know it was coming?
EYL.
Okay.
Earn Your Leisure. Me tapping into Market Mondays every Monday, and then me going to InvestFest, me tapping in with Rashad, and just watching those guys, you know, and really being a student, because every good teacher is really a good student. In order for you to relate information and actually know something, you have to know more than you're actually giving out.
Correct, 100%. I think it's hilarious how mainstream media hasn't talked about that we're in a recession. If you look at manufacturing numbers, if you look at job losses, if you look at the slowing down of the economy,
the GDP.
If you look at people's bank statements, it'll tell you.
Dude, we went from having the biggest during 2020 through early 2020 or mid 2022. We went from having the most, as a country, Americans had the most savings in the history of the country, like billions of dollars of savings in their savings account, which is wild that the government can track that. As I said, I'm small government, but the fact that they can track that is wild.
Right.
To the least amount of savings today with the highest credit card debt in the history of our country.
Correct.
How do you do that in 2 years and not say a recession's happened?
And not say it's risk, because I guess they don't want to cause massive panic. But at the same time, once I realized that most people are sheep, it really changed the perspective.
I love that. I love that. So you started Paradigm Shifters. What was your first move?
Paradigm Shifter. So all right, let me back up. So
so
I've been like the man in my family since I was 16.
Okay.
Like I'm the oldest of all of my siblings.
Okay.
I'm the oldest grandson on both sides.
Okay.
My grandparents really helped raise me on both sides. So I'm like the darling on both sides.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And my grandma came to me one day and she was like, "Baby, I owe back taxes on my land." And I was devastated to hear it. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I was like, this is an opportunity.
Right.
I said, "Grandma," and I don't call her grandma, but I'm saying grandma for the purpose of this conversation. Right. I said, I'm in a position to pay back your entire back taxes owed on that land. Will you be willing to transfer that land into my name? And this is sight unseen. I hadn't seen the land. I know that it's in Charlotte. I know that Charlotte is top 5 in the nation in real estate. I was like, this is a great opportunity. And she told me how big it was. And then I was like, will you be willing to transfer it in my name? She said, "Yeah, baby." I said, "Great. I'm coming tomorrow and I'm dropping off the money on you in cash. And we're going to the tax office."
Okay.
And she said, "Okay." And I got a little ahead of myself. I got really excited, and I put it on a public forum, and a family member seen it, she wasn't thrilled about it.
Right.
And it kind of caused like a family feud, but thankfully we all kind of, got over it. Nobody got hurt during the situation outside of like emotional. But we were able to come back together as a family, even though that situation could have really tore us apart. And I got the land, but then when I got the land, there was an issue with the water pipe.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, I got this parcel of land. I done promised my grandma I'm going to build her a house on this thing, and I can't do that with a water pipe that's messed up. I didn't even do any due diligence on the land. I just knew that this was a property. This is a parcel that in a relatively nice, prominent area, and I didn't know how prominent it was until after I got it. And I started to do some market research in the area, and then I just had to make a decision. Was I going to find the $25,000 to $30,000 to fix the water pipe and to build 2 houses on that parcel, or was I going to find another opportunity to get a better parcel to get even more houses
right
on that parcel? And we're natives of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are actually indigenous of Charlotte. So my great uncle Lawrence Gray, he actually owned 100 acres. He had 250 acres about 100 years ago in the rural South, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and for a black man, this is like the equivalent of being like a Michael Jordan owning,
right.
23 Racing in the NASCAR space, and then also having ownership in the Hornets before he sold it.
Right.
That's like that sort of equivalent. So from there, I was like, man, I'm gonna sell this parcel. So I sold it. I did a 1031 exchange. I found a buyer for it the next day. I sent it to my boy Rashad. Shout out to my boy Rashad, who's also in Buffalo right now.
Oh, nice.
Buffalo, New York.
Not too far from where I grew up.
Right. Not too far, but he's coming back to Charlotte. But
it's too cold up there. It's impossible to
stay.
It's Canada.
Might as well it's Canada.
I tell Buffalo Bills fans, because I'm not a Bills fan, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm like, you should be the Canadian Bills.
Right.
You're not really the Buffalo
Yeah, I'm not
Bills.
really the Buffalo Bills.
You're the Canadian Bills.
Y'all the Canadian Bills today, buddy.
They get so mad.
I believe it. But shout out to the Bills. And so yeah, I did a 1031 exchange. I minimized my taxes after doing some research on it. And then I got the 2.65 acre parcel. I closed on it May 30th. So I turned 30 May 7th. I closed on it May 30th of last year. It skyrocketed in value. I got it with no loan because I sold the parcel to acquire the other parcel, and then it skyrocketed in value because of the location that it's in. And I knew it would. So
that's awesome.
I'm a sniper in real life.
Oh yeah, you got to be.
Yeah.
So here's my question, and Mike, real quick, the memory card on this one's full, so when I'm talking, just go to wide.
Gotcha.
But here's
I heard it.
Here's my question: is family member wasn't happy that you took control of that land, but I always look at it this way: would you rather a family member take control of it or the government
or
a stranger? Yeah, because that's public data. You can see who's back on their taxes, on their land taxes, and then you can literally pay that off and take ownership of it. And people do that every single day. There might be somebody living in the house, if they own back taxes, it has to go far enough back, but somebody can come in, pay those taxes, and then own the house and kick you out of the house that you own. Another reason I'm not a huge fan of government, because you can pay your land off in full, but you don't ever truly own it. You're paying rent to the government, because as soon as you don't pay taxes, they take it from you, no matter how much you pay for the land.
No matter how much you pay for it.
That's why I don't believe in property taxes. So my mindset's a little bit different when it comes to big government versus small government, because I believe in freedom.
Me too.
And I think that having that overreach and being able to put those taxes on people, even though the land sounds like the land may have been paid in full, it's kind of BS, in my opinion. They literally were going to steal your grandma's land.
Well, you think of the amount of property tax that's in the United States of America, we would not be in the deficit that we are in debt.
Well, I mean,
that's the way I look at it.
Bad budgets. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So my whole thing is, you saved your family's land, and now somebody in your family is going to benefit from you saving the land. At least it's somebody in the family, right? Like it could have been worse. They could have just lost the land.
That's a fact.
And I'm sure that you're the type of person that would take care of your family if something urgent needed to happen.
That's correct.
So that to me is a net positive. So you sniped out the land. You then sold 1031 exchange, picked another location.
That's a fact.
That went up.
Insane.
Now we're working together on getting funding to build some properties.
Right.
So what's your first step in the property builds?
First step in the property build really is preliminary. We submit to the city of Charlotte, and they come back with hopefully no comments. They go through the first time with no comments. I'm really proclaiming that, and then after that, we get geared up for permits and approvals around my 31st birthday in the May-June timeframe.
Young too. Young. I'm only 34. I turn 35 next month.
Don't do it.
Just Mike's young too.
Shout out to Mike, man. We've been cutting up with Mike the whole time.
I got y'all something for your birthday right over here.
So so you get the permits back. Say everything goes good with the city. Permit, no comments from the city. What are you building first on it?
Triplexes.
Triplexes.
Five triplex units that we are, we're creating housing for the community. Charlotte desperately needs housing because we are significantly underhoused.
Crazy.
But it's a great time to be a developer.
Oh, yeah. I got a piece up in Kannapolis, just north of Charlotte, and we got it. Ben and I got it for $40,000.
Nice.
And it has a house on it, and we brought Mike in. And
he meant to say we.
He meant to say we.
We brought Mike in on it. Mike's brought in Russell. Russell's going to redo the whole house. It was the worst house I ever bought. I like to buy dilapidated properties, fix them up, and rent them out long term. So we're renting that, and then we're going to develop, an acre and a half.
Yeah.
And we're waiting on Russell to give us better ideas.
Shout out to R&R Lake Wiley.
R&R Lake Wiley. Yeah, man, great contractor.
Nice.
So I love the vision. So are you going to rent the townhomes out?
Yes, we are.
We're
going to
triplexes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to rent them out. The investment strategy changed from selling to actually holding, long-term hold, because long-term is really where it's at.
That's where wealth
to really
is built.
maximize on the investment. But then also going back to both of you guys' points about taxes, I don't want to have to pay short-term capital gains.
What is it, 40%?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's
Insane.
dude. America.
I'm not.
Oh, here we go.
America has I got into this, dude. I got into this with a lady on the phone yesterday. Not like back and forth, but like she agreed. And we were talking about it I was in a meeting. Yeah, I was in a meeting about investing in Dubai.
Wow.
I'm not personally doing it, but like the person I was talking to, it was a great Zoom call. I'm actually going to post that on our social media. I just got to get some the access to it.
Nice.
But there's no property tax there. And I was talking to the person, and he's from New York. His wife is from, I want to say Singapore, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that. I forget exactly what he said. But he's investing in Dubai, and a bunch of different areas around the country, and they don't pay property taxes there. There's not even any income taxes in Dubai, and Dubai is beautiful, dude. Like, I don't know if you've seen like what's happened in Dubai over the past 20 years.
I've been watching.
And you can buy a nice condo in the working district for $250,000. You can't get that here in America because we're so short on housing. Zero property tax. I'm like, and you mentioned it, short-term tax are going to hit you over the head with it. Well, do you know when we went to war with Britain, we threw a bunch of tea into the Boston Harbor because of taxes?
Boston Tea Party.
Right. So how in the hell are we back to the same spot? It makes no sense.
They don't want people to have their freedom.
Greed.
No.
That's called greed.
Well,
Greed.
Well, I also think it's government control too.
Yeah.
They look. I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole. I want to talk more about building wealth through real estate. But what I'll say is, get a good CPA. If you're in real estate, get a good CPA. Get a good real estate attorney. Get a good mortgage guy. Get a good realtor or advisor, and you will save just through your CPA and attorney, like a good real estate attorney. You're going to save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because they call them tax loopholes or whatnot. It's not loopholes. There are things that are placed there to incentivize people to do a certain thing because of job creation, because of housing creation. And right now, especially with what's happening with illegal immigration coming across, there's a lot of people coming into this country, and we have a national housing shortage. Part of the reason we have a national housing shortage was because of supply chain issues during COVID, lots of forest fires at the time out in Colorado and up in Canada that burned up a lot of the housing supply. So there's a million reasons behind it. Now that we're having shipping issues because of the wars that are going on overseas and cutting off certain canals, and it's taking longer to get here, and it's driving the price up. So what I've told people is interest rates probably aren't going to go back down. And if they do, it's only going to be like 1% or so.
Right.
But the appreciation is going to continue to rise because the more people that come into the country, the more issues that we have with supply chains and forest fires and things of that nature, the more appreciation you're gaining. So the housing price is going to go up.
Supply and demand.
Right.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. And I agree 100% with you. The play right now is, to me, buy, hold, rent. Like, you
That's
know,
it.
Have you ever heard of the Burr method?
Of course.
I'm doing the Burr method to an extent. Very similar, but instead of doing long-term rentals, I'm doing short-term rentals to like traveling nurses, students, things of that nature, like per room rental, because you can increase your cash flow.
Nice.
Right. So might be something to look into, depending on the area you're in. I mean, dude, those some of the traveling nurses, they'll pay $3,000 a month.
I'm hip.
Yeah. So that, and there, Charlotte has a ton of hospitals and such. So reach out to the hospital, see what they say, but per room rentals too, look into that.
Yeah.
Now,
that's like considered community housing.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want, and the other thing too is just do your due diligence and stuff. You don't want, you want to diversify a little bit. But yeah, man, so you're going to have 15 units there. What's the next move?
The next move is to build this city with my mentor.
Down in Chester.
So we got it rezoned from 200 units to 2,600 units. We got the wetland.
Forest equity.
Yeah, a lot of forest equity. We got the wetlands report back clear. We're working directly with the mayor. We are doing a traffic study. I mean, it's getting crazy.
Awesome. And then how many years is that project?
Probably about 3 to 5 years time frame. I think
Okay.
is a more realistic perspective, but we're looking to get several hundred of those lots from my
Awesome.
mentor, and we're
Awesome.
looking to scale
Great.
and become a multi-billion-dollar company.
That would be amazing. The I want to go back to the 15 units. Let's talk about cost a little bit. And I'm going to ask you some questions I already know since I have the numbers.
Yeah, you do have the numbers.
But I want you to tell us the
You
numbers.
got insider information.
Insider information.
Always wins.
So for a cost standpoint, what's it going to cost you to build the 15 units?
So for each one, I'm really estimating between I think about 340,000 for each unit, and then for total 4.4 million. That's to develop the land and to also go vertical.
Okay.
So we're looking at 4.4 million, and man, it's just staying focused.
4.4 million. What's your monthly payment going to look on something like that? Rough guesstimate.
Rough guesstimate. I think it's really contingent upon how much equity I have in the land, and
Right.
I have a ton of equity in the land. So, based upon that, I'm preferably nothing too crazy.
Okay. And then cash flow wise,
Mhm.
what are you hoping to make per month cash flow? After all your expenses are paid out, put your budget away as far as for repairs, things.
Yeah,
of
no,
that nature.
that's a great question, and honestly, through my business dealings with strategic partnerships, in a perfect world, I'll have everything paid off, and then I'll get that cash flow coming in for about $3,500 a month per door. I want to pay off everything early.
What's 15 times 3,500? And I agree with that concept. And I'm
Lot.
going to talk a little bit about what we do from a comprehensive real estate standpoint, what I preach. 3,500 times 15, just for the viewers' sake.
$52,500.
If you're making $52,500 per month just off your 15 doors, dude,
That's $630,000 a year.
you're
Yeah.
getting it.
We're looking to scale.
That's beautiful.
Hyper focus on scale.
So I believe in primary residence, then buying investment properties after that. And we developed a niche in the market working with investors. So we work with a lot of self-employed people, a lot of investors, and it comes from an underwriting background and knowing how to underwrite to get people through the process and having different options to do it at
Right.
less of a cost typically. So we started with what we called our comprehensive real estate plan, and it's kind of evolved, but it's still the comprehensive real estate plan. Primary residence, then investment properties, and it started long-term rentals, one per year for the next 6 years. So that's 7 properties, including your primary residence, in 7 years. After you get to that 7th property, take the 6 investment properties and the one you owe the lease on, then the next lease, all the way up to the 6th, whatever one you owe the most on is last. And you take it almost like a snowball effect, and all the leftover cash flow after your rent's received and after you budget for like repairs and such, you pay off that first one that has the least amount, and then the next one, and then the next one. So we actually broke it out in an amortization schedule. You can pay off those properties in 14 years. So then you'll have your primary resident, and I'll get into why I don't say pay off primary residence here in a second, but you have your primary residence you have your primary residence that you're paying for. You have 6 paid in full properties, and in the Charlotte area, we'll just say they're worth in 7 years from now probably $400,000. If you bought them around 250, you should be, that's probably pretty conservative from a number standpoint with the way we're rising in appreciation.
Yeah, no.
But you have over
very
$1 million.
conservative.
You have at least $1 million in assets that are paid in full. So you could sell that pretty much at any time and have at least $1 million in your bank account, which is unheard of.
Mhm.
And then on top of it, from a conservative standpoint, you should be making per house, if you're renting year-long rentals, you should be making somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 in Charlotte in 7 years, right? So we'll call it 2,000. We'll go pretty conservative, which is extremely conservative for this area.
Extremely conservative.
That is $12,000 a month in cash flow within the next 14 years after paying those off. Can't beat it.
And that's if it takes 14 years.
That's if it takes 14 years, because if rent increases, things of that nature, appreciate, all that good stuff, you could technically pay it off faster. The reason I say don't pay off the primary first is because the primary residence, say you're paying $2,500 a month in mortgage. Well, paying off your primary residence only puts $2,500 a month back in your pocket.
Yeah.
Paying these off puts $12,000 a month back in your pocket.
Yeah.
So to me, that was how we got into this, and probably, how we talked to this person, then that led us together. Comprehensive real estate plan. I mean, if you zoom out, big picture America, zoom out, you can see that housing prices, rent prices
steadily.
I
mean, our pre-tax success value came back just shy of $500,000, and then we got CMA that reflects is just shy of $1 million. And then once we actually have the units built up, let's say I were to sell, I mean, we're looking at sale price between $420,000 to $450,000 per door. That's once the units are up.
Right.
So you multiply that times 15, those numbers
unbelievable.
Are very favorable.
Unbelievable. So good for you. Good for you. So done with that. You're looking to scale. This is step one. And a lot of adversity led you to this point.
Crazy
what is that saying? Pressure makes diamonds.
That's it.
And you keep pushing through the adversity. You have anything else to say to anybody who's wanting to get into investment? Any advice you would give anybody?
Yeah. For advice, I would really say cultivate the mindset of abundance versus scarcity. Be willing to pay for mentorship to allow you to ascend to higher heights in a much shorter time frame. And then also focus on taking quantum leaps instead of incremental steps.
Explain that.
All right. So a quantum leap is something, the way I really pretty much look at it as a person, and let's think about it from like the terms of X-Men, let's just say like I'm a superhero, and let's say that I have the power to jump from one city to the next city in one leap.
Okay.
That's a quantum leap.
Right.
Because I just jumped from Charlotte, North Carolina to Chester, South Carolina in one leap. That's a quantum leap. Versus incremental steps. If I'm taking incremental steps, I'm going through the day-to-day motions. I am a school teacher. I am looking forward to retirement.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that because we need our teachers.
Right?
We need our teachers, but we need to pay our teachers. But beyond that, the incremental step thing come in as like the mundane, the day-to-day, okay, I'm going to just do it because I've been doing it.
That's what I mentioned earlier.
That's what Mike mentioned earlier.
And the quantum leap was coming here for me.
Right.
I mean, I got 15 years in one industry, don't know anything, have no clue about the mortgage industry or building wealth through real estate or meeting all these great people that we're meeting, and here we are. I get up every single morning like, I got up this morning.
And you look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Going to meet somebody new, hear their story, talk about it, put them out on the air, and then Nick and Ben, myself, Russell, we're doing our own thing too. So it's awesome. It's a new adventure every single day.
It's a new adventure every single day, and it gives you something to look forward to, and it really puts life back into you.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then the more life you have, the more you can give it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that humans are meant to do the same thing every single day.
Insanity.
Go back to the days of hunters and gatherers, right? Like, constantly on the move, constantly going someplace new, constantly chasing the next. Like, you're doing something a little bit differently every day. It's when we started, planting crops and doing that type of thing and settling down in one location, and then you get into this routine. Now, a routine is important from a work ethic standpoint, of waking
from a discipline standpoint.
From a discipline standpoint, 100%. But the great thing about real estate, mortgage and real estate, is every day you're dealing with something different, and a lot of times, like, they're shorter term projects. So your build, even if it takes 3 to 4 years, which I don't think it will, but say it did, that's still a short term compared to your life, right?
Yeah.
And then it's on to the next project. And a lot of times you're working on multiple things at the same time. So your hour by hour is going to be different. Now you want to have the discipline to plan your day out so that you know, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then you also know, okay, something's going to pop up. So I have some time here, 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 and here to deal with the stuff that just comes out of nowhere. It's something different every day. It's extremely exciting, like Mike said, like you're saying. And it makes life, even if, like I said, money follows, it doesn't lead, especially in mortgage and real estate. Long term is the play for the most part, unless you're doing like quick flips and things of that nature. But even that, the money doesn't lead, it follows, right? So it might take you a year to renovate a house before you get the payout on it. technically short term, but the money doesn't come first; it comes second.
Right.
So if you're going after something and you're excited about going after it every single day and day in and day out, you're getting after it and you're trying to learn and you're trying to get better and you're trying to put the project together, you're trying to meet people, you're trying to develop relationships, because like you mentioned earlier, your network is your net worth.
That's it.
Period. And I was reading something that almost within the next 5 years, almost 100% of business relationships are going to be based on how you get along with people and what that relationship looks like, and then business will come, and you see it every single day in this industry. But yeah, man, it makes it exciting, and the money will follow. And
The money will follow.
And even if it's not real estate for people, this is one of the things I stress. Find out what you really love to do, and then go do it. Right?
That's it.
And if go do it, don't ask questions, don't ask how much. Figure out how to make it possible until the money comes.
And then commit.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Discipline will take you places that motivation can't.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Anything else? Really, I just want to really encourage the audience to just be a constant student. Familiarize yourself every single day. Get 1% better every day. I'm more so focused on getting 10% better every day. But whatever your goals are, fully commit to them, and you're going to receive a lot of no's if you're trying to raise capital. So get ready. But if you stay the course, if you stay persistent, then you really can't lose. It's impossible to lose if you stay consistent.
You receive a lot of no's, whether it's raising capital, whether it's trying to develop a book of business as a mortgage broker, whether it's a real estate agent, whether it's, even like nowadays, because of the scarcity in housing and how few houses there are, and the shortage that we have, even like people bidding on houses, like primary residence. I have every deal that comes in, there's like 5 offers on it. So there's 4 people being told no on the house that they want to live in with their families. So you're going to get told no a lot in life. And here's a little game I played to kind of trick the mindset. Get 2 buckets or 2 like cups or something. Get 100 marbles, 20 green, 80 red. And every time you get a no, put the red one in. By the time that red bucket is full, you should have 20 green ones full too.
Absolutely.
So
I like that.
We're getting ready to wrap.
Yeah.
And final words?
Final words.
Tell them where to follow you.
Yeah, so definitely tap in with me on Instagram at Markale D'Angelo, MarkaleDeangelo. You'll also be able to see my YouTube channel that I'm looking to grow my audience, and be on the lookout for everything that we're doing with Paradigm Shifters. I mean, it's been amazing thus far, and now we're just hyper-focused on executing at the highest level of professionalism and integrity.
We look forward to seeing your story. You're going to be back on the podcast each step of the way. I would like to have you back on. Anytime you have something you want to talk about or knowledge you want to drop on people, I know that you were a teacher at the highest level, and you believe in that and teaching. So let us know if you ever have anything you want to say, and we'll fit you on. It's been a great episode. We thank you for being here. We're really appreciative. And then to everybody who's watching this, go ahead and bang that red subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. We're going to have more guests on, like Markale, more stories to be shared, more building wealth through real estate. Our whole thing is we want to educate communities on how to build wealth through mortgage and real estate. Every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30, 11, however long the podcast takes, depending on the conversation. We will be live on our YouTube channel. Once we get to the followers on TikTok, which we're getting close, we'll be live on TikTok as well, and all of our social platforms. Every Friday, we have market updates on what the market's going to do. Myself and Big Boss Ben, which you guys probably know because we've been doing this for a while together, we'll talk about what the Fed is doing to screw the American people, or maybe not screw the American people. It depends. But we'll be on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. as well. Thank everybody for watching. Thank you, Markale, for being here.
Thank you.
If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and follow us on social media, MBI Financial Group LLC on everything. I'm Mortgage Man Nick, but short and mortgage. So at MTG Man Nick. Follow me on everything. We really appreciate y'all. We're out. Peace.
Peace.